You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to Government Shutdown Madness. I'm Tony Kinnett here on the Daily Signal, coming to you live with the most importantest of updates, the screaming, the sweltering, the sweating from old people. It's all happening on Capitol Hill right now. And we have the biggest, the best details that are so big they're huge, coming from President Trump himself on the expectation from the White House at this point regarding a shutdown. President Trump.
We could come up and through this whole thing, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that. No country. And we have the border stopped up. We have it closed. We have nobody for 4 months. Zero people came in. That wasn't me. That's by the authorities who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay. And that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it. And they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions. And we can't let that happen.
Well, we do now have, I believe, the full news that the Senate has officially voted on this particular shutdown in question. So this would be House Resolution H.R. 5371. This is the clean CR. We have the vote coming now from the Senate, breaking here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. The yeas are, at the moment, 51, but they do need 60 votes. 60 votes in order to pass it. It ain't happening, folks. It's not happening. The nays are climbing very, very, very quickly. And again, if you need 60 votes and there are 43 nays, well, 100 minus 43 is 57. The votes are not there. We are going to begin a government shutdown at midnight. The shutdown is officially on its way. And just to clear a little thing up here real quick, there was a prior measure that was voted on a couple of minutes before the show began, 167S6882, if I listened to our political editor Bradley Devlin correctly. Probably didn't. This was the Democrats' last-ditch effort to get something across the table for some emergency measures to get some of the things that they wanted. And those things do, in fact, include some of the illegal immigrant health care funding measures proposed by the Democrats. Now, what's really interesting here about this particular bill, the CR, the clean continuing resolution that the Republicans passed out of the House and sent over to the Senate, is the Biden-era funding levels without anything extra added in. The Democrats in the Senate have voted in favor of the continuing resolution exactly like this one from Joe Biden's auto pen himself. 13 times. 13 times Democrats have approved this stuff, but all of a sudden, oh, no. They're not ready for any of that stuff. So again, Democrats have officially rejected the measure from the House of Representatives to continue the continuing resolution to, again, as a clean bill, continue funding the government. That shutdown begins at midnight tonight. We're going to talk about what that means and actually the effects out and how long that particular shutdown is going to last, what's going to come out of it with Rob Bluey. In a minute, you are going to hear me say, I'm not sure if the bill is going to pass or not. That's, again, we didn't expect that we'd actually have the vote this early in the show, so just as a little bit of a note there. And this does, in fact, bring us to two very important points. The Democrats are currently running around yelling that this is all about Republicans and their shutdown. And I'm going to be honest with you, probably not going to work. You have people like Gavin Newsom posting all over social media, the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the presidency. Why can't they pass this bill through? Again, boys and girls, math, you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass the bill through. The Senate is not supposed to be nuclear option all the time. That's not how it is supposed to function. So in order to pass filibuster, it has to get 60 votes, which in this case it's not going to because the Democrats refuse to pass this piece of legislation through. They are the minority party. They are the holdouts. Now, why are they holding out? Well, Representative Maxine Waters, who has, I think, been in Congress since Noah stepped off of the ark. There's a passage in the Old Testament in which a raven leaves the ark. Noah sends the raven out to look for dry land, and it landed in Maxine Waters' hair and has been there ever since. So anyway, here's Maxine Waters telling a reporter exactly why the Democrats are going against the Republican continuing resolution. Here you go.
Do Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, Americans
Excuse me, stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement.
Then why not just pass the resolution? That's what the resolution is for. It's Biden level spending. It just continues keeping the government open at present spending levels. If what she's saying, stop, that's not about illegal, it's actually about keeping the government open, then why not vote yes on the resolution? There are, in fact, Democrats who join Republicans in voting yes on certain things. We'll let her continue.
To keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody.
Oh, wait a minute. Aren't Democrats, saying that they want health care for illegal immigrants? Because that's Republicans' problem. Even the populist, the most populist of populisty Republicans, Senator Hawley, let's say, he's a very populisty kind of middle of the country Republican in the Senate. Senator Josh Hawley is for government-funded programs as a social safety net. That is something that Hawley is in favor of. Some subsidies, some entitlement programs, and safety nets. He and I may disagree on the extent of those, but that is something he is for. His issue with the Democrats' proposal is that the particular funding apparatuses in that resolution proposed by the Democrats would then go to be used by illegal immigrants. And so then when the Democrat response is, well, it's actually everybody, well, that includes illegal immigrants then. That's what she's saying, because you won't say not for illegal immigrants, even though Hakeem tried to play that yesterday.
We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on.
Yeah, that's the funding that shouldn't exist in the bill. Again, if I don't like entitlement programs personally, but if there are going to be entitlement programs, well, then those had better go to Americans. Yeah? I'm sorry, but the person who is an American citizen who needs to be on Medicare, I want them to have access to those funds specifically, not going instead to illegal immigrants. Producer Nick.
Does Maxine believe that illegal immigrants are being refused emergency services? Say they're bleeding out and they're dying in the streets, that ambulances are just driving past them?
That seems to be what they're suggesting. Again, there is legislation in the United States, as well as every major and minor hospital chain. They will treat you if you are taken into the emergency room. That's a thing that will occur.
What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No, I'm just
you're
asking
divisive.
questions.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no,
you're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get...
That's the entire controversy. And I'm sorry, but Lucky from Lucky Charms screaming at the reporter there in her bright green leprechaun suit at the top of the morning before we go to vote on the bill. I would love to remind you, me and Dupree, that, again, that's the entire controversy. You can say you're just trying to divide Americans. There's a finite sum of money. We don't have unlimited buckets of money lying around. And so if there is a specific amount of money, we are approaching a debt crisis. If we have to have entitlement programs, then spending that money on illegal immigrants is not something the supermajority of Americans are for. Radio crew, we're going to send you guys over to commercial and continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, the best part of all of this. And we'll get to some of the details with Rob about the government shutdown and by the way, the actual proof in the pudding on where that money is going when it goes to states that end up giving it to illegal immigrants. In the meantime, Democrats have focused on the most important political issue of our time. So while you have, again, Lucky Charms, Maxine Waters out there yelling from the Capitol steps at reporters that, yeah, it's for illegal immigrants. On the inside, Democrats are very, very, very angry. And they're very angry because Donald Trump uploaded a video that, again, uses some AI, changes Chuck Schumer's voice, and puts Hakeem Jeffries in a sombrero and a mustache with just a cheap PNG transparent image on top of him. It's one of the best clips I've ever seen. Here you go.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I love it so much. I've watched that so many times today. It's incredible. And by the way, the Democrats really should have just brushed this off because making memes of politicians is the oldest tradition on the face of the earth. It is. And no matter how hard Gavin Newsom tries to pass an anti-AI campaign video, whatever, that kind of legislation, it's going to keep happening. Again, Vice President J.D. Vance and his face being smushed and pulled and pressed into all kinds of memes. It's hilarious. South Park, it's funny. Relax your slacks. But of course, Democrats decided this was the moment of sheer outrage. Again, not even that Chuck Schumer was made to say a bunch of stupid stuff, but that Hakeem Jeffries had a PNG of a sombrero and a mustache slapped over him. Here's Hakeem's response.
Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video.
Okay, I'm sorry. First of all, I do love how whenever Hakeem speaks, they try to elevate him to being some incredible, beautiful leader. And all they end up getting is like people oohing and cheering and huzzahing. Just the most awkward William Shatner impression of all times. You have Lady in the back going, ooh, yeah, preach. Mm-hmm. If you had a church that a guy preached like that, you would throw him out of the building so fast, the offering plate wouldn't even hit the ground first. Producer Nick.
The next time Donald Trump meets with Hakeem, he should bring a sombrero.
Yes. He should, or at least a fake mustache to hand him.
You wanted me to say it to your face.
Incredible. So he's very, very mad. But then, again, no one gets angrier than a liberal white woman because it's not just, you're not just allowed to have something people think, yeah, that's not funny, it's kind of cringy. Every time anyone makes any kind of a sentence everywhere, there has to be a liberal white woman that steps out and is offended on someone else's behalf. In this case, Representative Teresa Fernandez, she's ready to defend the Hispanic people deeply insulted by a sombrero image. Oh, well, please, Teresa.
That's right. And then what does that shameful man do? After a meeting where you're supposed to be working out details, where you're supposed to be negotiating a deal, you post something that draws a sombrero and a mustache on the leader with whom you're supposed to be.
I love it so much. Again, you're supposed to be negotiating. I mean, I'm sorry, with the crew that's calling Trump and his administration fascist Nazis who are disappearing people. That's who you should. How dare you put a sombrero on the man that's calling you a fascist? We demand to be taken seriously. Okay. Okie dokie. Beautiful. This does get worse. We'll have to come back to this a little bit later because we're going to head over to Rob Bluey, talk about what comes after the shutdown now that they have voted in favor of the shutdown. We're going to head to that. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
We go over to Rob Bluey, president of the Daily Signal, who is, believe it or not, one of the guys who is most at home amidst the chaos in Congress. Rob, thanks for coming back from New York to a city just bristling with cooperation and friendship.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was just last night, Tony, that you had the latest fireworks between Zohran Mamdani and Donald Trump, and I expect we're going to see more of that between now and Election Day. But no, New York was like it always is. It's good to get in and good to get out quickly.
Boy, that's the truth. So right into this latest congressional speculation on shutdown nonsense, everyone's talking about the odds as to whether or not there's going to be the shutdown of shutdowns and what that comes down to. The question I have is, how long do you think that a possible shutdown would last into Russell vote, maybe getting in there and doing a couple layoffs? What do you see the post-shutdown timeline looking like?
Well, sure. I mean, operating from some historical perspective here, we know that the shutdown over the course of the 2018-2019 period during Donald Trump's first term was 35 days. And the pressure just continued to build until a point where I think that not only did the American people want to see it end, but the politicians in Washington realized that it probably was not helping either political party. Of course, earlier this year, Trump and Republicans did a masterful job of branding it the Schumer shutdown. You started to see Republicans revamp some of that language to put the blame squarely on the shoulders of Chuck Schumer for his unwillingness to bring along those handful of Democrats. I think there were 9 Democrats in March who ended up voting for the bill. So I do think that if Russ voted, and you picked up precisely on the pressure point that I think Democrats are going to feel, if he starts to take action where he presses forward with these reduction in force agreements, the Democrats will start to squirm because the unions and others who protect those workers are certainly not going to want to see people on the receiving end of a pink slip.
We know that Schumer can kind of play, hardball in a way, although he does have AOC breathing down his back. There are some swing state senators, though, the ones that aren't retiring, that are a little bit more nervous, that are looking at the potential of a longer government shutdown as possibly being a real negative to their campaigns in the upcoming midterms, which, by the way, totally pops the narrative that this is going to hurt Republicans in the midterm elections. What rumors are you hearing hillside on maybe the, let's say, slightly more purpley Democrats, senators, although few they may be, squirming?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, historically, the party that's not in power tends to do better in midterm elections. And in this particular case, you would think that Democrats might have an upper hand. However, the polls don't really bear that out.
That's exactly what I'm typing into the computer right now.
Yeah, exactly. and so Republicans, you could look at a number of polls. You could look at generic ballot. You could look at the issue polls. I mean, voters tend to trust Republicans on the issues that matter most to the American people. And so I don't think that the Democrats are necessarily going to benefit from some of those headwinds that they've had in the past. The other thing that the Democrats are banking on here is they're advocating for these COVID era healthcare subsidies. Now, just a couple things on this, and I expect that those same senators that you're talking about are going to be the ones that are championing this the most because they see this as an issue where they think they have an advantage over Donald Trump. However, the COVID emergency ended over 2 years ago, and it was done by Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden was also the one who oversaw the passage of these extended subsidies, which we are rife with waste, fraud, and abuse, as we know from the analysis that has been done by esteemed healthcare scholars. And the final point is the Democrats were the ones that put the expiration date in at the end of 2025. So the Democrats obviously thought they should expire. COVID's no longer a national emergency. Joe Biden ended it. And for any Democrats who are going to make this really the issue that they try to champion, I think Republicans will easily swat it down and point to all of the bloated government spending that happens in Washington, D.C. as a reason why we need to have a serious conversation about the debt and deficit in this country.
Well, of course, there's been an article we cited yesterday from the Chicago Tribune outlining Minnesota and California, Illinois as well, who states were no longer able to fund illegal immigrant, who they called, what do they say? The immigrants who do not have legal status, who have lost their health care because the state had to save money that was no longer coming in via those COVID emergency dollars. But I did look this up because, yeah, you and I, our brains went to the same place. Right now, we're seeing an average spread of Democrats with a 3.4 point advantage in the generic ballot. At this time, before a midterm, it is unheard of for the opposition party only to have a single digit advantage in the congressional ballot. You've obviously been through a lot of midterms, far more, than I have in DC. What in the world is going on? That's like the worst congressional lead before a midterm I've seen.
It is. And so there has been a lot of applause on the part of the news media and some on the left for the recruitment of people like Sherrod Brown, who's trying to make a comeback in Ohio after being defeated last year. The Beto O'Rourke approach, my favorite. Yes, exactly. How many times can you run? Same thing in North Carolina. And so there are some states that I think Democrats are looking for pickup opportunities. The problem is that at least as it comes to the Senate, it's going to be hard to knock off Republicans who have a 53-seat majority right now. The House is really the one that's up for grabs, and that's why you have these redistricting battles and things of that nature. But back to the polling point that you were making just a moment ago, it's all going to come down to the economy. I'm convinced that Americans are going to look at their personal finances and make a decision about whether or not they think that Donald Trump really cares about the average working man and woman in this country. And what I think he's been attempting to do is not only bring some of those manufacturing jobs that were lost over the previous decades back to the United States, but also lower the cost of inflation, which was sky high during Joe Biden's tenure. And so if he can make those gains with the voters who will decide the outcome of Congress, I think Republicans actually stand a decent chance. And it wouldn't be unprecedented. Let's face it. The incumbent president has picked up seats in previous midterm cycles, and Donald Trump has been shown to overcome the odds and make comebacks in the past. So, Tony, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I will say this, one final point about the shutdown. We are so far away from the election that I think that if Democrats think that this is going to hurt Republicans in November of 2026, they're not students of history. The elections that it could potentially have an impact on are the Virginia and New Jersey gubernatorial elections, which are coming up in just a few weeks.
Mally Smith, he's the Democrat strategist who was on the Campaign Harris team for North Carolina. He was trying to feed me this, the big beautiful bill, or I guess he called it the big bad bill, is really going to hurt Republicans in the midterm. And then he also cited the possible shutdown. And I looked and I was just, when you get hit with a question or you get hit with a response that's just so out of touch with reality that you don't know the best way to respond. I don't know. I picture Calvin's mother from Calvin Hobbes running in when he's nailing nails into the table and asking what he's doing, and Calvin doesn't even know how to respond to that. I'm shocked to watch Democrats suggest that when they have no economic proposals of their own, right? They're whining about health care for illegal immigrants right now, that supposedly they're going to produce an economic vision that contrasts with Trump's to win over the voters in the midterm cycle, because it's about getting out the vote in the midterm. It's not just about people not coming out for your opponent. And they don't seem to realize this. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, so just maybe kind of a roundup thought here. I'm not even sure how often I'm going to have to keep covering the Democrats' latest attempt at a plan that falls flat completely. It's bizarre in an objective sense.
It really is. I mean, they've attached themselves to some of the most unpopular ideas. I think you have some people like a John Fetterman, for example, who is trying to breathe some common sense into the party. Very few people are actually listening on the left side of the aisle. And to your point about the criticism of the One Big Beautiful Bill, let's remember that a lot of those provisions won't even kick in, and Americans won't feel the effects of them until 2026, when they go about filing their taxes and start to see that they're going to have more money that they can keep in their own pocket as opposed to sending to Washington, D.C. And that was the problem when Donald Trump, in his first year of his first term, it wasn't until December that he was able to get that tax bill, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, across the finish line. It was too late in the year for that to have any kind of impact for the following year, which was also a midterm election year. And so I think it's a totally different scenario when it comes to the One Big Beautiful Bill. And of course, Republicans need to be out there on the campaign trail selling it. They can't just abandon it and let Democrats control the narrative on it. But absolutely a different set of circumstances.
Well said. Rob Bluey, president of the Daily Signal, thanks for giving us some of the kind of the ear to the ground stuff regarding what Congress is, or more likely isn't, doing.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be with you.
We'll be back in a second. We got to send the radio crew over to commercial. Continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, let's give you a bit of an official, superest duperest update, the most official kind of update that I'm legally allowed to give you from the floor of the Senate officially. Here's Senate Leader John Thune.
The nays are 45. The 60 vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a government shutdown. I know, I too am very excited because now, as I just mentioned with Rob Bluey, Russell Vought from the OMB, the great office of hiring and firing. Well, now that the executive branch has that opportunity, fire them. Let's go. Clean out the federal government. In fact, the entire Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, fire everybody. See ya. So long. And also, on another note, let us make fully automatic weapons because that's just really cool. All right. So, in the meantime, Joy Reid, not on MSNBC, well, she's losing her marbles because while the Democrats are focusing on Sombrero-Gate, the Joy Reid side of the party, they're upset because of what Republicans plan to do. And it's not often that I agree with Joy Reid. So write this one down. The look on producer Nick's face is pretty incredible. Here's Joy Reid revealing the inner, super secret, super duper plans. Project 2026, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Joy Reid.
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back.
That's the world we want back. No income tax. There were a lot less regulations, and you could leave 100% of the goods that you work your entire life for and have already been taxed on. You could leave those goods to your children. My God, it's horrible. The pain, the terror. I'm getting the shivers right now.
Get it back. They need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things.
Need people to want fewer things. I want the things you talked about. I want like the no income tax and I want the less regulations, and I want to leave money to my kids when I die that the government doesn't get a chunk out of because it's already been taxed through property taxes, sales taxes, various other taxes. Just, I'm saying, bring it on. She got me. That is, in fact, that. Please, thank you for the campaign endorsement, Joy something Reid. Producer Nick.
We may miss letters, but she missed a word. She meant free things.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you brought that up. Producer Nick mentioning, for those who are listening, on a chyron in the last interview, he meant to type shutdown, but lost the letter H in that word. So it was a government shutdown. I know. Very serious news here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. Up next, we're going to be talking about, believe it or not, some of the most important news in our country's recent history. No one's covering it, so that's what we're going to do. Here on the Tony Kinnett Cast, we got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
So while the left is losing their mind over trying to blame Republicans on the government shutdown and Sombrero-Gate, in the meantime, we have actually some pretty big news that while everyone's focusing on the shutdown, and again, yes, for those who are coming back from the radio commercial break, the shutdown is official. It's going into effect at midnight. So be on the lookout. As I think the guys over on the Ruthless podcast put it, be on the lookout for the news article that says there's some poor family who saved all of their money up to go to Gettysburg, and now their vacation is canceled because national parks are closed. Oh, mean Republicans. So be ready for those news articles. But in the meantime, there is a major series of illegal immigration scandals regarding mail-in voting ballots. The actual statistics on the illegal immigrant arrests, detaining, and conviction types, like what illegal immigrants who have been caught in the last couple of fiscal years, many of them have already been convicted of. CNN interviewing the Sinaloa cartel. And then, of course, a series of other major illegal immigration stories. No one has talked about this. And it's wild for a couple of reasons. First of all, I will remind you, illegal immigration is the one issue in the last 20 years that has beat the economy in mainstream presidential election year voting. Illegal immigration, for the very first, never in modern polling history have we ever seen this. Never. Even in modern polling when the Soviet Union was still around, and that was a serious concern for people, national security still has never for a smidgen of a second passed the economy. Illegal immigration did in the last voting cycle. According to new statistics released by the Department of Homeland Security, in the fiscal year 2025, all the way to here in August, so a couple months back, again, so that would be from October to August of this year, there have been 533 illegal immigrants that have been arrested with prior convictions for assault, battery, and domestic violence, 312, which were arrested previously, convicted of burglary, robbery, larceny, theft, and fraud. 1,262 illegal immigrants had previously been convicted of DUIs, 18 of homicide and manslaughter, 748 of illegal drug possession and trafficking, 3,823 of illegal entry and reentry. By the way, that number in fiscal year 24, 10,935. Illegal weapons possession, transport, trafficking, 100. Sexual offenses, 100. Other, 1,583. That's a lot. That is a lot of prior convictions because, we were told that these were all innocent, just grandpas trying to play chess in the park and pregnant ladies crossing the border. And yet, again, the data shows that illegal immigrants are more likely to commit other kinds of crimes and prior convictions being in the United States, because if you're already breaking one law, well, what's the big deal about 2 or 5 or 10? As Kilmar Abrego Garcia didn't say, if you're going to have MS-13 tattooed on your knuckles, you might as well beat your wife with them. So, again, round these individuals up who've committed these crimes and send them to the farthest reaches of Earth or your nearest El Salvadorian prison. So, that said, the cartel is very, very, very upset. Why? Because the Trump administration is not letting them operate freely in the United States. In this interview with CNN, I do find it interesting how journalists are able to just call up and be like, hey, we got invited from the Sinaloa cartel that's ready to go on air and talk. So in his ski mask and cheap sunglasses, here's the Sinaloa cartel to CNN saying he's having a rough time.
Do you think what President Trump has been doing has been making your job tougher?
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
But it's becoming more difficult, you think?
Yeah.
Did Trump making life for the cartels more difficult? Yeah. Blowing up boats of our competitors is something I should be happy about. But instead, I'm sitting down here on a cactus because we can't operate in the United States. It's terrible. And the worst sin of all, now, I don't have, confirmation that the Sinaloa cartel leader said this to CNN, but I'm reading between the lines here. The thing that offended the Sinaloa cartel leader the most is that Hakeem Jeffries was put in a sombrero and a mustache, and that's just unconscionable. In all seriousness, guys, so much is being cleaned up in this country. No coverage of it whatsoever. First of all, USCIS Director Joseph Edlow has laid out several examples of immigration fraud caught up in the Minneapolis area during the recent Operation Twin Shield. So there are all of these operations that are going on around the country. In Chicago, you got Operation Midway. You've got all of these other... I want to be on the operation naming team. I think I would be really good at that. Midway Blitz. Just really, really cool stuff there. But anywho, he points out that not only are we seeing huge cases of illegal immigration and violent crime, we're also seeing local participation in illegal immigration fraud. How curious.
Some of the other troubling cases that our officers found. In one case, officers identified an alien who had overstayed his visa waiver, who was the son of a known or suspected terrorist on the no-fly list. He had previously been found to have engaged in marriage fraud, which resulted in the denial of several immigration benefit requests. He was arrested and is now presently being returned to his country of origin. In another, an individual admitted to obtaining a fake death certificate in Kenya for just $100.
Same. I have at least 5 Kenyan fake death certificates. They're really cool. They're like trading cards.
To prove he was no longer married. In reality, his wife is alive, living here in Minneapolis, and is the mother of 5 of his children. And incidentally, he has another wife living in Sweden with whom he has an additional 3 children.
Don't we all? Don't we all? I mean, I know that, in Minnesota, there's really only 2 ways to do it. Either you marry one lady with another honey in Sweden, or you marry your brother and run for office. That's the Minnesota way.
In another case, an alien entered the United States without inspection in 2023, was released by Border Patrol. The alien married a
2023, let's see, that would be during the Biden administration, released into the country, okay.
U.S. citizen while in removal proceedings, and was interviewed at the Minneapolis-St. Paul USCIS field office just last week, where both he and his American spouse stated under oath that their marriage was legitimate. The USCIS officers conducting the interview were suspicious. The site visits were authorized the same day. The American...
So what's happening so far that he's describing? You had this guy who entered the country illegally. He was released into the country. He said, I got hitched. I'm allowed to be here. And the USCIS, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services officers were like, you know what smells really fishy? That right there. So they dispatched a couple of agents the same day, because in the Trump administration, you actually clean up the mess the minute you see it. Here's what happened.
Spouse ultimately that afternoon admitted the marriage was fraudulent and entered into solely for immigration purposes, and withdrew her petition for that alien.
Whoa, wait a minute. The marriage was fake? You mean they gained? So wait a minute. They in Minnesota, they faked a marriage to gain access to living in Minnesota, where it's easiest to do so. Man, I don't think that the people he's talking about is a representative of Congress from Somalia, but you never know. Just so many such cases, as the President of the United States has often said. Then there is the biggest scandal that you have all been told. I was told. If you questioned the glorious, resolute mail-in voting system in this country, if you dared question the integrity of the U.S. elections, they'd slap warning labels on your videos, they'd deplatform you, you might get fired, you were mocked and ridiculed, the FBI might put you on a watch list. Well, buckle up, boys and girls, because it turns out, mail-in voting, not secure at all. Remember the guy a couple of days ago, Ian Roberts? He was the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools. The guy that, in 1999, his student visa expired, and then he got a couple of gun crimes while he was here, while he was, not here legally. So he has, some misdemeanors and felonies swinging around, whatever. Then he tried to evade police. Major scandal there. Well, it turns out that according to individuals in Congress, in the Freedom Caucus, he has been receiving mail-in ballots at an address in Maryland since at least 2020. This is per the Iowa Standard. So this man, not in the country, not a citizen, never has been a citizen ever, had a student visa, was receiving mail-in ballots. But I was told that mail-in ballots are really secure and it's amazing and there's absolutely nothing that could go wrong. We have no information as to whether he voted in any elections. When you see reports that mail-in ballots are not safe because they can be manipulated, because they just send them out. They don't check whether someone is a citizen. before they send out some of these. Here is a great case in point. There's no way to say, well, I mean, I thought he was a citizen because, you see, on his driver's license. No, this man didn't have any of the stuff to be here legally. He was just given the benefit of the doubt. Incredible stuff. By the way, here is Ian Roberts' lawyer, who has announced, yeah, he's resigning as superintendent, because it's a felony for him to be working there otherwise.
We will today be sending a letter to the Des Moines School Board, authorized by Dr. Roberts, to resign his position as the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools. That is going to go out. It's been authorized. It's not sent out. You're going to get a copy of that letter.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Incredible. I love it so much. Now, by the way, there's another FBI raid that took place in Portland at the home of an illegal alien who was shining lasers at military helicopters. So as an individual, by the way, who has done a little pilotry and things of this nature, this is a disgusting thing to do that absolutely puts pilots in danger. Green lasers or high power semi-spectrum infrared or red visible light spectrum lasers. They are very damaging, not only to instruments, certain instruments on the plane, they also just straight up fry your eyeballs if they hit the right angle. Big no-no, big no-no. The Federal Aviation Administration, as well as the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, they take that crap very, very seriously. Not only because in the age of modern drone warfare, that those kinds of laser targeting systems are becoming more prevalent as they make their way into the civilian market.
Second trip around, I've seen. Building is
incredible. So these guys, and by the way, when the FBI then showed up at this guy's house, because they see where the laser's coming from, on an infrared camera, it's a line literally pointing to your house. Like the stick lights in Charlie Brown Christmas. He and Linus are walking away from the tree place and you see the stick lights, going up in the air. That's where that light shows you where it is. Yeah, that's what laser light looks like, infrared camera. It's not an invisible dot into the sky. But when they showed up to the house, they found this one illegal immigrant living with 3 other illegal aliens. Now, all of them are in ICE custody being processed for deportation. If you need help finding out where they're being deported to, I think we've got a laser pointer lying around to point on the map for them. So that brings us to the last thing. We got to send the radio crew over to commercial. We'll say you guys in a second. Going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. So, Broadview, Illinois, where Operation Midway Madness Super Duper Blitz Extreme 9000, huge fan, is going down. The police chief in Broadview, Illinois, I'm gonna take a wild stab here, not a Republican or a man with an average testosterone count, because he's really sad. The police chief in Broadview, Illinois, he's sad. His name is Chief Thomas Mills. He's really upset because the ICE agents that came in, they were mean to him. Here you go, guys. It's really sad. Broadview, Illinois police chief, Thomas Mills.
I was shocked. I've never been spoken to by a fellow law enforcement officer in such a way.
Broadview Police Chief Thomas Mills says on top of requiring 75% of his department's manpower for crowd control outside of the ICE processing facility in the...
I love that. They required 75% of my officers to break up a riot. How dare they require my officers to uphold the law? We give speeding tickets in Broadview, and we find pictures of Spider-Man.
West suburban city, he was personally, verbally attacked by ICE agents during a protest.
I'm a leader of a department.
I'm a leader. My wife's boyfriend says I'm a very good man.
I know that my officers are looking at me for guidance and leadership, and I had to ensure that, I had to stay calm and not engage in such...
I did some of the classes, breathing I learned at my Lamaze classes.
Unprofessional behavior.
Chief Mills says he was walking across a skirmish on September 12th, the day this video was shot.
So what happened? He's walking around, not actually doing anything. His law enforcement officers are not arresting rioters who are doing things like saying, and I quote, shoot ICE. That is inciting direct violence and blocking traffic. That's obstruction of justice. For federal law enforcement in the state of Illinois, also a crime at the state level. His job is to uphold city ordinance and city code, state law, and federal law when applicable. And he did nothing. And you know what? ICE agents, they don't really care for some pansy goober not doing his job.
He was called multiple expletives by an ICE agent, calling him a coward, accusing him of neglecting his duties during protests that got physical. Mills also telling the I-Team about an incident earlier this week where a pedestrian was hit by a truck near the ICE facility.
Allegedly.
I just want to point out that he's really, really upset because he didn't do anything. He didn't direct his officers to uphold the law. And so one of the ICE agents looked at him and said, "Dude, you're a coward." He's like, "That hurt my feelings." Okay, well then, survey says you're a coward. Congratulations, producer Nick.
They called me a duty head in front of my officers, and that made me look bad.
You know what? Your officers probably wouldn't be affected by language like that if they thought you were a competent officer. It wouldn't bother you. Again, I run a team of producers. I'm called many nasty things on the internets. It doesn't. You know, no, I'm pretty sure that my producers and I have called each other much, much worse. Just for the record.
A ICE agent struck someone and continued on into their location. And during the course of that, while trying to gather information, there was pepper spray released while my officer was right there.
Someone tried to obstruct traffic, and I was like giving a little counseling session to the person who, you know, FA then FO'd, and then someone got the pepper spray out. How dare they? I specifically requested mustard gas. Incredible. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial, and then we're going to talk some culture stuff. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go anywhere.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I think one of the greatest things that I've enjoyed since getting into this kind of movement, broadcasting, doing show stuff, is watching other excellent people also get the credit they deserve on their channels across, you know, the internet. They're growing because they're producing really great stuff. Top of that list, Stephen Kent, Geeky Stoics. You haven't checked out Geeky Stoics, you need to. It's a really, really good channel. They're producing really, really good stuff. And that's why we drag him and his exhausted corpse from Virginia onto the show every Tuesday to share the latest in Emma Watson, J.K. Rowling drama. Stephen, how's it going?
The delicious drama of these two Brits is something that just sort of keeps the content mills rolling online and keeps people like us employed. It's just too much to watch. But thank you for that flattery, Tony. Always nice to be with you.
Of course. So why don't you go ahead and frame Downton Crabbey for us over here? What, did you like that? Downton Crabbey?
I didn't. And honestly,
I'm thinking of a pun that uses the word Bridgerton, but we haven't gotten there yet. So Emma Watson, of course, Hermione Granger. It's Leviosa, whatever. Or Leviosa, whatever. I'm already going to get that wrong. Producer Nick, please be kind.
Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
The long and short of it is the Harry Potter actress who was Hermione Granger in the films. She is worth lots and lots of money and is also very far to the left. But the entire left world has been very mad at J.K. Rowling for saying things like men can't be women. And there is a verifiable difference between male and female genitalia. Bold statements only, I know. And now there's some new developments. Frame up the situation for us.
Yeah, in this house, we believe women exist. So does J.K. Rowling. So Emma Watson has commented on J.K. Rowling for many years since J.K. became sort of the British face of the push for reality on biological sex. She has criticized J.K., called her all sorts of names and heartless and all this kind of stuff, as the other cast members of the Harry Potter films have done. But only recently in a podcast, just a couple of days ago, Watson said, I really don't believe that having had that experience with J.K. Rowling on set and holding the views I do means that I can't treasure the person that I had experiences with. So sort of going a step backwards from slandering her for many, many years and saying she still treasures JK and respects her views.
Having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with.
J.K. Rowling was not super amused about this and took to Twitter to do just about the most polite dissection of another human being you could ever possibly post online, which I can recap for you here. But at the end of the day, J.K. Rowling goes, your kindness and your gentle words would have been nice a couple of years ago when the entire world was trying to destroy me and you participated in it. Only now are you being kind because the tides have turned in favor of biological reality and away from the trans delusion.
I do love this line from JK. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. And it speaks to a rather incredible framing that so many in the kind of young celebrity class living in the lap of luxury will criticize firearms and security guards, but have their own wing of security guards with firearms. They'll criticize biological reality while recognizing they never have to change in a public changing room with an old pervert.
Yeah, Emma has so little experience of real life. She's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She'll never be placed in a mixed sex public hospital ward. Just recounting all the ways in which, J.K. Rowling opened up the entire world to Emma Watson so that she could embrace this far left ideology that is anti-woman at its core. And I think that encapsulates what we see on so many universities with these anti-civilization students at Ivy League colleges ranging from Oxford and Cambridge to Harvard. These people have everything at their fingertips. They're the Zohran Mamdanis of the world. They've never struggled or needed for anything, and yet they still want to burn down and disparage everything that they were ever given, the foundation that they walk on. Man, she really, really made an embarrassment of Emma Watson here. Who knows if she ever even saw it, but J.K. Rowling remains undefeated and stronger than ever.
Well, you said Emma will never face, talking about as an actress, as a wealthy actress, she'll never face certain things. One of those things you once have said being replaced by automation. Now, that may not be the case. You sent me this. It disturbed me deeply because there are now multiple talent agencies reportedly in talks to sign AI actress Tilly Norwood, created by AI talent studio Sequoia. It's according to Deadline earlier in September. What do you think? We're going to see an AI actress next to Leonardo DiCaprio or something? Or what the heck is this?
Remark that I have seen about this AI actress, which even as I'm saying it, I'm trying to correct myself. This is not an actress. This is an illusion created by computers using the hard work and toil of real actors and actresses. Someone said that by 2029, she will have starred in 48 million adult films, which is kind of
no,
which is kind of where we're at. My beef here is that AI is trained on the work of human beings. Just like you can find stories in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal about YouTube videos being sourced to train different AI thinking models. So the hard work of YouTube creators like myself. This actress in certain light when she is, I keep saying actress, this ideation of AI looks like
the
Gal
CGI
Gadot.
abomination who is somehow less real than Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Gal Gadot in certain shots that they've released, which leads me to believe they probably are using all of these actors and actresses and studying their movements and facial expressions to train this AI to then put them out of work. It's actually pretty gross.
It's just strange. That's all I can really say about it, kind of in its entirety. I don't really know what you're going to do when the actress's best known line is just dial up noises. But I gotta say, I'm interested to see what they try to do with it, because no matter how much right now they throw AI video through the ringer, you do still see the aberrations through faces changing shape, things not maintaining consistency over a period of time. It's just, again, they're really putting way too many eggs in this basket.
And I think the thing that sickens me so much about this is the lack of thought that goes into the creation of these things. So this was originated by a woman named Aline van der Velden, who I suppose was an actress, an agency person. And she created Tilly Norwood and has basically been farming out Tilly's likeness to different advertising firms and magazines to do sort of like modeling for clothes. And she says, to those who have expressed anger over the creation of my AI character, she is not a replacement for a human being, but a creative work, a piece of art, and a tool. And this is just sort of what non-thinking people say about AI.
What a coincidence. I think a lot of actors and actresses are tools too.
But seriously though, this is what non-thinking people say. It's like, oh, it's not a replacement for humans. It's a tool. Well, then you ask them, a tool to do what? And they don't have an answer for that. It is just to actually take the place of human beings in photo shoots and to model genes possibly better than Sydney Sweeney could. So
now let's not get ahead of ourselves here, because I do actually have a pretty optimistic view of the future of AI from our own illustrious President Donald Trump. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer trundled out before the American people to announce there was no deal on the government shutdown, and Trump's
you can't even tee this up.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of you know, at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
All right, I'm going to say this one thing and you're going to have to take it because I'm not going to be able to talk anymore. If your entire political party, your whole opposition party, you've spent a full year working on your plan to combat Donald Trump and make everything look his fault, going into this big shutdown, if it can be completely evaporated by a 70-something-year-old man tweeting a video of you in a sombrero with some mariachi music, your party's done, man. It's just done.
Yeah, the Democrats are not prepared for the fight that they are in to try and reclaim the interest of the country. They remain constantly on their moralizing high horse about every single issue except for the very basic things. And they're going to act disgusted over this video. And folks, I am also disgusted.
They already have. Have you seen Akeem's response?
Oh, I'm called it, the like the Antichrist level of immorality, when it really is just like a cartoon. I mean, this is not AI meant to deceive human beings and to peddle false narratives. This is the equivalent.
Hakeem could clearly not grow a mustache that fine. This is all intents and purposes.
Do you remember the Jib Jab videos?
Jib Jab was great. That was what we thought. Our generation's AI was George Bush, singing "This Land Is Your Land."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I love it so much.
There's no pretense about this video being artificial. It's obviously not real. You can tell from everything about it, including the overlaid sombrero and mustache. It's not real. It is a cartoon. It is the equivalent of doing a caricature in a newspaper. And it is incredibly funny. The Democrats have no idea.
And some people are so mad about it. Oh, there's one comment. I couldn't help but tweet about this, and someone responded, but it's not even funny. It's an ultra boomer hack at best, and the president of the United Bleeping States should have a bit of class, no? Where have you been in the last 20 years?
Where have these people been for the last 250? I think that people live in this they live in this world that they were born in the 1980s onward, where we have had relatively vanilla politics, but in the long run of this country, our politicians have been flame lords, anons. They have done outrageous things in the columns of newspapers. For print against their enemies. Politicians do this kind of stuff with one another. They mock one another. They make fun. They call names. We are sort of returning in many ways to the founding ethos of this country, which is politicians absolutely ripping each other's throats out in public and mocking one another. I'm not saying that that's great. It's just that it's not unprecedented.
There was when this is a last little bit of trivia tidbit here before we have to set this interview off to the sunset. There was a political, it wasn't allowed to be published in the newspaper, but it was still passed around when the compromise to move the capital of the United States from New York City to Washington, D.C. The claim that this was done so that those who, being there in a warmer climate, would make their manhood appear larger. That was a joke that was passed around at the time about that particular compromise. And that is freaking hilarious. It's because politics has always been politics, and the idea that, well, wait, it must be prim and proper. It's like, yeah, while we're wishing for things, I'd like a pony, but that's not the way it is.
No, I would like for the United States Congress to embrace some of the ethos of the UK's Parliament, knock down, drag out, screaming fights on the floor, and not just performing for cameras. I mean, most of our C-SPAN culture, it's a lie. It's people giving speeches to empty rooms and then cutting ads with it. But our congressmen are not actually having real clashes on the floor and having debates about the issues.
Canada does their little junior high lunchroom fights where like one of them will say, well, I think he's stinky. And then the party behind him will go, ooh. And it's like, what am I watching? Is this just like Boy Meets World? No, it's the Canadian Parliament.
And I think that's exactly it. I mean, so much of our politics is a stage show. It is Plato's cave. It is not real. And I would actually like us to embrace a politics that even when it is messy and ugly, we are airing real disagreements and seeing who wins.
That's very, very true. And that is an entirely different conversation that therefore we'll have to talk about another time. Stephen Kent, geeky stoics, always stellar, always excellent. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you, Tony Kinnett.
Now, just before we go, I've received a couple of questions as to whether or not we're going to talk about Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, and his excellent speech today at Quantico. No, and there's a reason why. I want to take my time and actually go through it, and also the reactions to it already are pretty incredible. So I don't want to just put that at the end with some bonus tonus stuff. I want that to probably get a big portion of coverage tomorrow, and after all, there'll be less to cover because the government's going to be shut down straight into my veins. I truly love it. And even now, thank you, Lord. What are Democrats angry about? What is, again, the government shut down. They're supposed to be out there going, Republicans did this. Oh, it's so terrible. Hakeem Jeffries is out in front of media this second, I believe 2 minutes and 30 seconds ago, complaining about, you guessed it, Sombrero-Gate. Here we go.
Donald Trump posted this AI video.
There's the little gospel choir behind him. He's getting excited.
Featuring myself and Chuck Schumer. It was a fake video. It was a disgusting video. It was a racist video. It was unbecoming of anyone purporting to be the president of the United States of America.
Purporting to be. He's the duly elected president of the United States. Hakeem's relationship with adjectives is a very special thing. It's really, really a lot like Eric Swalwell's relationship with Beijing. Just kind of awkward. So moving on, I do have one. The coverage from the media on this was just particularly stellar. I was mad I didn't get to this in the first segment because they did the vote right at the beginning of the show. So ABC's very nervous. There's a representative, Teresa Fernandez. Someone put her in a sombrero as well, and the person behind her. Anyway, ABC News was very worried people were going to think that this might be real. I did not Photoshop this. For those who are listening on the podcast instead of watching on the live stream, this is real. ABC News released like this VHS TV filter over like this old cathode ray tube TV filter over it. And then they have AI generated image. It's not an AI generated image. That's wrong. It's AI audio. Because even Schumer's lips don't even match up to the audio. So it's not as though they did that where they make him say it. It is simply a PNG that's a transparent image file and a transparent JPEG of a sombrero downloaded from Google Images or whatever, and then a little handlebar mustache that someone used like some kind of rotoscope tracking, probably in Adobe Premiere tracking, After Effects, gotcha, to then glue it to essentially the same point on his face, so when he turned, it moved. That's it. It's not AI. They're so full of themselves, these fact checkers. Well, actually, breaking AI generated misinformation. I love it. I love it. More. I want more of this nonsense. Also, CNN's coverage, I also think is worth playing here because, again, very, very serious stuff.
We heard from the president late tonight on his view, I guess is how I would put it, on how the negotiations at the White House went today. I want to get your reaction to what the president posted.
So then they post the video. I'm not going to play it for a third time.
He knows haters.
Is that appropriate in your view?
Look, I think sometimes the president plays with the press like a little boy and a flashlight and a dog. And he's shining the flashlight here and he's shining it there. What he's saying is this offer from the Democrats is ridiculous.
Now, Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas has been on the show before, and he's exactly correct. He is. President Trump knows that if he gets out there and he dangles something silly or a meme or he gives someone a goofy nickname, Gavin Newsom, Sleepy Joe Biden. Here's his picture. It's an auto pen on the walk of presidential pictures. He knows the media is going to lose their mind over that. And is he right? Survey says, yeah, he is absolutely correct on that one. So the Democrats may be really concerned about messaging, but Republicans, you know what you have to do from here on out.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Just want to thank our sponsors for the show, both business owners of Baltimore Sombrero, both Jamal and Juan. It's a very, very excellent place. You know, Baltimore Sombreros, once you've seen Juan, you've seen Jamal. So we're going to go over now to probably the end of our coverage and wish you all a fantastic shutdown. If satellites fall out of the sky, remember, stop, drop, tax, then roll. And we'll see you tomorrow if the country's still standing. I'm Tony Kinnett. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC.